preserved for another generation. Because stories like this do not fade with the passing of years. They gain weight, they expand, they echo across time, reminding us that victory was never inevitable and survival was never guaranteed. These machines, these men, and the desperate burning skies they fought under still speak to us through the faint roar of old engines, the cracked photographs in dusty albums, and the handful of aircraft that rise into the air at commemorative shows, their wings trembling with the memory of battles fought before most of us were born. When the Hellcat fires to life now, when its propeller begins to turn and its engine bellows across a runway surrounded by spectators, something ancient stirs beneath the polished paint and museum restoration. It is the memory of dawn raids over Wake Island. It is the image of a 19-year-old pilot flipping through storm clouds as tracers burn past his canopy. It is the ghost of a Zero tumbling in flames toward a dark sea. The aircraft itself seems to know it once carried young men into a world where seconds decided life or death, where altitude was survival, and where a single burst of gunfire could change the direction of a war. The Hellcat's legacy is not merely measured in confirmed victories or in the technical specifications that still impress aviation historians. It lives in the stories of the men who climbed into those cockpits without knowing if they would ever touch land again. It lives in the fact that pilots trusted this aircraft with their final moments, their last chances, their hardest decisions. All across the Pacific, from the Gilberts to the Marshalls to the deepest waters near the Philippine Sea, remnants of the war still sleep beneath the waves, including pieces of aircraft that once cut the sky in half with speed and determination. Some of those pieces belong to Hellcats that never made it home, machines that fought until their fuel tanks ran dry or their wings were too torn to carry them any farther. They rest now under layers of coral and silt, silent monuments to battles that defined the century. Yet even as the technology faded, even as jets replaced propellers and the world shifted toward a new era of warfare, the spirit of the Hellcat endured. It shaped the doctrine of American naval aviation, proving that survivability and firepower mattered as much as elegance or theoretical performance. It taught pilots that they could push into impossible odds and still come out alive. And it proved to strategists that industrial strength, training discipline, and reliable engineering would ultimately overpower speed, mystique, or even fear. Aircraft like the Zero may have dazzled early observers with their agility and daring design, but the Hellcat taught the world a different lesson. Wars are not won by spectacle but by endurance, by consistency, by tools that can be built in numbers, repaired at sea, and flown by men who had only months to learn their craft. The last surviving pilots who flew these missions now speak of their aircraft with a mix of affection and awe. They remember its stability on approach, the way it absorbed punishment without complaint, the confidence it gave them the moment its engine roared to life. To them, the Hellcat was not simply metal and rivets. It was a partner, a protector, even a final friend in the most hostile skies imaginable. One pilot described the sensation of returning to the carrier deck after taking hits that would have destroyed another aircraft. The Hellcat trembled, coughed, and creaked, but it brought him home. Hundreds of pilots told similar stories, and those stories have become part of the aircraft's mythology. Visitors walking through aviation museums today often pause in front of the Hellcat exhibits without immediately understanding the scale of what these aircraft accomplished. They see a sturdy blue fighter with a broad stance and oversized wings, a machine that looks almost too heavy to have dominated the sky as completely as it did. But when they learn the numbers, when they see the kill ratios, when they read the accounts of pilots who survived battles they should never have lived through, the admiration deepens. There is a moment when a visitor realizes that they are not looking at an ordinary aircraft. They are looking at something that shifted the course of history. The Hellcat's impact extended beyond the battlefield. It affected morale. It affected strategy. It affected the very rhythm of the Pacific Campaign. After its arrival, American carriers operated with a confidence they had not felt since the early days of the war. Pilots knew they could go on the offensive and return alive. Bombers knew their escorts could clear the sky ahead of them. Commanders knew they possessed an aircraft that not only matched the Zero but surpassed it in almost every meaningful category. The change in momentum was not subtle. It was decisive. It was absolute. Even now, aviation experts still debate which fighter was the greatest of World War II, but many quietly place the Hellcat at the top of that list. Not because it was the fastest or the prettiest or the most technologically advanced, but because it achieved exactly what it was built to do. It entered a war at its midpoint and crushed the enemy that had dominated the first half. It protected its pilots, allowed inexperienced flyers to become aces, and delivered victory after victory with a kind of relentless dependability that no other aircraft matched. When you watch a Hellcat fly today, when you hear the rhythmic pulse of its Pratt & Whitney engine filling the air, you are hearing the echo of a turning point in history. You are hearing the machine that broke the back of Japanese naval aviation, that cleared the way for every island landing that followed, that helped ensure the Pacific would belong not to fear, but to freedom. It is more than an airplane. It is a chapter of the American story, written in steel, fuel, courage, and sacrifice. If you were moved by this story and want to experience more of these immersive journeys into the past, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more dramatic historical narratives. Tell us in the comments what moment from World War II you want us to explore next. Every suggestion, every comment, and every shared story helps keep history alive, and we are honored to bring these forgotten battles back into the light.